This is Holden, Norway.
What you are seeing is the day-to-day life of its occupants,
Holden would be any other place on Earth.
except for the fact that it's a prison.
Here in the US, prison life is almost entirely different. Here you can see inmates are given less space but far less sanitary conditions than their Scandinavian counterparts. The food quality is well. Living quarters aren't much better. As you can see, the bathroom is lined with the rest of the cell, forming one room with barely enough room for one person.
Now, we've all seen what American prisons are like. If not in person, then through TV or videos on the internet. The quality of American prisons shouldn't shock you. What should shock you is the percent of inmates who reoffend and end up back in prison. Here in Norway, the recidivism rate is 20%, one of the lowest on the planet. If you compare that to the recidivism rate of the US or California alone, there's a clear difference in the amount of people being put in prison. The United States of America has the highest recidivism rate on the planet with a whopping 76.6%.
The question then should be,
Why do so many Americans reoffend?
the answer to this question is how we treat our inmates. When you think of prisoners, you should probably think of those convicted of a terrible, inexcusable crime like murder or something similar. The fact of the matter is, most inmates in our country aren't convicted for these types of crimes. In fact, some of them haven't even been convicted at all.
The reason we have so many criminals held up in our system is due to what some have ingeniously dubbed
the barrel.
this so-called fuck barrel occurs when you get charged with a small crime, such as drug paraphernalia or something similar. You could be charged with jaywalking or a parking ticket. There doesn't need to be much evidence for said crime. For paraphernalia, it should be something like a straw. Then you're put in front of a judge. The judge may set prison time with a ridiculous bail amount. It might be $200, it might be thousands. Either way, if you can't pay it, you're put in prison. If you're unlucky, quote unquote, you could even end up somewhere like Rikers, where the inmate population is known for violent crimes. But your bad luck won't stop there. You could wait weeks, months, or years before your case is resolved. Your time in prison has most likely caused you to lose your job. Maybe you've also lost your house or your apartment. Once you're finally out of prison, if you've been found innocent, you now have to go out and start all over again, which is something people can't do usually. What will end up happening in most situations is people will end up committing crimes to stay alive. They'll shoplift, deal drugs, or partake in an entire list of habits that simply lead to them right back in front of a judge. So, what are your options?
Well, if you've been given a plea deal, you can take it. Be let go with a slap on the wrist and try to go back out into the world. Except it doesn't work like that. When you take a plea deal, you probably have to plead guilty, which means that the charge will be put on your permanent record. Let's make that clear. You would have a permanent mark on your record, which will be examined by every employer and potential landlord you encounter. The crime you commit will always be with you, all because you didn't have the money for bail.
And that's not even considering the mandatory minimum you will face if you're convicted of the crime. Take Weldon Angelos' case, for example. He was caught selling marijuana while possessing a firearm. He was given a minimum 55-year sentence, which is more than a hijacker, a pedophile, or a terrorist. All those crimes would carry a minimum sentence of 30 to 20 years, by the way.
And once you're inside a prison, it doesn't get much better. We found that in many prisons here in the US, the food is served by untreated staff. The food has very high chance of being prepared incorrectly, and the only protein most prisoners get from said meals is beans. The last part is the most of the meat in prison food isn't actually meat. As well, prisoners are given unsanitary living conditions. Their toilet is simply attached to their sink. in a single room cell.
Compare this with the Norwegian prison system, where inmates are given all the liberties you could think of. They have access to TV, kitchen knives, open windows, even blowtorches. Oh, speaking of blowtorches, did I mention that in Halden, inmates have the option to take elective courses which can help them find jobs after they've served their sentence? The goal of prison in Norway isn't punishment, it's rehabilitation. Inmates aren't just made to do hard time for breaking the law, they're made into productive members of society. In essence, there's a web to catch people to make sure that their lives are completely destroyed. So, what does this, combined with the fact that the US has the world's largest reincarceration rate, mean?
We need to change our system. We need to change our severity of punishment. But most importantly, we need to change how we treat our inmates.
Inmates are treated terribly. Of course they are. They've committed a crime, haven't they? They should be punished. But that doesn't mean that they should have to throw away years of their lives. I mean, wouldn't you rather they never committed a crime again? Imagine this. Imagine we adopted a system similar to Norway. Imagine instead of focusing on putting inmates in prison, imagine instead of relying on these convictions for money to support the system that we have. Imagine if we instead rehabilitated our inmates so they would never commit a crime again.